Hello and welcome. I hope your coffee is warm because today we are looking at the top 10 most unique commander concepts coming out from Bloomburrow. And this is one of my favorite videos to make because it's really cool to look at in what ways these cards will really change our favorite format. First off is my favorite. I always start with my favorite because why not? It is the most fun. So let's start with it. Zinnia, the Valley's voice. First of all, the valley is the place that all of the cute animal folk live in, and the name of the place is on the card. That's one thing that we should love here. Also, there are some like frog houses, and this bird is a little bit bigger. Zinnia is a Jeskai commander and works with creature spells, believe it or not. So that's weird. So that's one new thing here. It is also about flying, which is a little bit old because it's a bird, but really it's not, because it's mostly about small creatures. First of all, the most interesting ability is that Zinnia gives all of your creature spells offspring for 2 mana, meaning that you can sort of copy the creature, but it will come in as a 1/1, which might be an upside in some cases. You will get a copy for just 2 mana, so you will need a little bit more mana to cast the creature, but then you get a small version of that creature. So you want creatures that are already really strong whenever you get to copy them. So big creatures, we'd love that. But one other ability from Zinnia is that Zinnia gets extra power for every other creature you control with base power 1. And that can get out of hand quickly because Zinnia has flying. So maybe you can kill your opponents with commander damage if you're lucky. I mean, 1-powered creatures are the easiest to get, right? Well, Chasm Skulker is one of my favorite to pair with this. It's blue, so it fits. 3 mana. And then for 2 mana you can make another one just like it because it was already a 1/1. And then whenever you draw a card, you put a +1 counter on the Chasm Skulker. So you might think, well, we don't want that because then it's bigger. But when it dies, you create X 1/1s with Island Walk, where X is the number of +1 counters on Chasm Skulker. So you want to grow it by drawing a bunch of cards. And then you get a bunch of 1/1s and probably will have a lethal Zinnia on the battlefield from the 2 Chasm Skulkers that died when they had, let's say, 12 power. Or Imperial Recruiter. I think cards that already are 1/1s are probably the ones to look at first, so that's what I did. It's a 3 mana Human Advisor, red, so it fits again. And it says, enters the battlefield, search the library for a creature card with power 2 or less. And if we are going with that theme of 2 or less power or 1 power, then why not put Imperial Recruiter in the deck, and now you can get 2 of them for 5 mana, 2 of your favorite cards. Isn't that perfect? I think this is the most unique card to join our format because it's not like these colors to do this, I would say. And I love the mechanic of being able to copy your creatures, but they get the downside of being 1/1s, but it's also an upside. Next up is the Bloodroot Apothecary. It's a scroll that poisons your food, okay? It's a 3 mana 3/3, so wouldn't fit in the previous deck, definitely not because it's green, but it has Toxic 2, meaning players dealt damage by this scroll also get 2 poison counters. A player with 10 or more will lose the game. And whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-creature creature. No. So like a treasure, that player gets 2 poison counters, meaning they can only do that 5 times. And if they do it 4 times, your Bloodroot Apothecary will be lethal. So sure, give them a treasure token. When it enters the Bloodroot, you and target opponent each get a treasure token. But if they sacrifice it, they get poison counters, and they don't want that. That's one fun thing, because players in Commander will be sacrificing a lot of artifacts, and you stop them from doing that. And the Wave of Vitriol, for example, and there are more examples, at least one I could find that do this, but with artifacts, says each player sacrifices all artifacts, and we already love that. We don't even care to read all of that other text, to be honest. For 7 mana, if you can make your opponent sacrifice 5 treasures, for example, then they lose the game. Isn't that a beautiful combination of cards? I would say it's beautiful. And poetic. Wouldn't you think it's really nice that this squirrel with flowers in their hair gets to kill your opponents cutely? Well, next up is a type of creature, but I love it. It's birds. You would say, but dude, that's really boring. But no, Kastral, for example, the Windcrested, 5 mana for a bird scout. And it says you may put a bird creature card whenever one or more birds you control do common damage to a player. You choose one. You may put a bird creature card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield with the finality counter on it. That's really interesting, because in blue-white you wouldn't really usually think about a lot of creatures coming back like that, and you can choose any bird you want. And there are more effects that have come in the set like that. For example, Jackdaw Savior. It's a 3 mana one that says whenever it or another creature you control with flying dies, return another creature card with lesser mana value from the graveyard to the battlefield. So apparently birds are all about graveyard synergies now, and they are all about flying, of course, because they are birds. Here, for example, you see already 7 damage in the air that could get in. Also, Kastral could put a +1 counter on each bird you control, and as they have flying, that is really impactful. You could also draw a card, but I think that's a little bit boring. But it never does nothing. I think it's really an interesting archetype that has come in to Commander to really change up your flying games. Next up is food, and food isn't new. It's not a new concept on its own, but there's also Forge, another simple mechanic. It says, well, it's not really simple. On Camellia, 3 mana for Scroll Warlock. It's a 3/3, can be your commander. Other scrolls you control have manas, we don't care. Whenever you sacrifice 1 or more foods, create a scroll. Okay? Then 2 mana Forge, meaning you exile 3 cards from your graveyard. Really possible in this color combination. Or you sacrifice a food. And making foods should also be really easy in this color combination. And when you do that, you put a +1 counter on each other scroll you control. So this is 2 parts of an engine, and I think that really signifies that this will be a strong command. Parrot, for example, this is one I love. Peregrine Took, 3 mana for a halfling. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, for example, let's say accidentally you create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token, those tokens plus an additional food token are created instead. And then when you can sacrifice that food token, maybe you have a way to instantly do that or something, you perhaps draw a card for sacrificing 3 foods, and then you sacrifice 3 foods, so you get 3 scroll creature tokens, and then you get another food back. But if you can sacrifice 1 food at a time, then you can keep getting the scroll tokens, and you can probably very easily go infinite with that. Other options, make a lot of food, make them tap for mana. Knights of Sweet Revenge, 4 mana, makes your foods tap for green mana. Also a way to really work with food, one that is really laid out. But I think this could be a strong archetype now, and I haven't really seen it before, but apparently squirrels took it over the edge. Rats, Vren the Relentless is a 4 mana rat rogue. Also, Vren. Who's that again? We need to look at that. But 4 mana for a 3/4. If a creature an opponent controls will die, exile it instead. That's already pretty good, honestly. Not for 4 mana yet, but at the beginning of each end step, create X rats, basically pack rats, that grow by +1/+1 for each other rat you control. So they are already at least a 2/2. where X is the number of creatures your opponents control that were exiled this turn. So you want to keep killing your opponent's creatures, and you will get the rats that can get in really easily. And the downside of those rats, usually with pack rats, was that the rats would die and then one of your opponent's creatures would die and they really wouldn't care. But now they get exiled, and that means that you will get a rat back. So this is, when you think about it really hard, an infinite card. Good cards with it are all of the rats, so those work. But Ogre Slumlord, for example, is a 5 mana ogre that loves the little mouse-like creatures. Don't tell them I said that, but it's true. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may create a 1/1 rat, and we love those. And rats you control have Death Touch, so they will definitely kill something from your opponents, and you will definitely get a rat back after that. And they won't have anything left, probably. Marrow-Gnawer, 5 mana for a small rat, but all rats have fear, so they can get in really easily. So this will be your finisher, but will also be your value engine, because you sacrifice a rat, you put X rats into play, where X is the number of rats you control, and you will have a lot of rats in this deck. Rats aren't really new, but I think the new color that is really good, and I think this is a really great commander for those pack rat fans, and it will change the format in such a way that they will be more grindy than ever, and it will be a little bit more fun because they will have a little bit of interaction. It won't just be trying to kill you with unblockable rats. I think this is not really new, but it's better for the game. Rolling Hamsphere. This is an old card, to be honest, because we got those with mirrors and I think another creature type, but these are hamsters, so that's really cool. 7 mana for a 4/4 that gets +1/+1 for each hamster you control. There isn't really much you can do with hamsters. I think there's only the Planeswalker from the Dungeons and Dragons set. But whenever the Hamsphere attacks, you create 3 red hamster creature tokens, and then it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of hamsters you control. I think you can go ham with that, and I didn't really put this in just for that joke. Octomancer, 5 mana for a 3/3 frog druid that gifts an octopus, a tentacle monster. That is an 8/8. It has 8 tentacles. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast the spell, and if you promise someone the gift, I think you just need to give it. It means if you do, when it enters, you create an 8/8 blue octopus creature token. And I think you're obligated to hold yourself to the promise. But it does mean that if it gets countered, then your opponent won't get the 8/8 as well either. So maybe they help you counter the counter in this case. More importantly, at the beginning of each end step, you create a token that's a copy of target creature token that entered the battlefield this turn. And I said that fast on purpose, because each end step means when your opponents play tokens, you will get the token as well. In this case, for 5 mana, you play a 3/3, you give your opponent an 8/8, and you can at least copy the 8/8. What you could also do is copy the Octomancer, because it's not legendary at all. Helm of the Host is an example, one that I really haven't seen pop off ever outside of Arena. A 4 mana legendary artifact, and it says equip 5, so that's a really big ask, but you are in Simic, so maybe you can do it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you create a token that's a copy of equipped creature. Meaning you copy the Octomancer, then you have 2 Octomancers that both say at the beginning of each end step you create a token that's a copy of target creature token that entered the battlefield this turn. Meaning you get 4 Octomancers already. I mean, you can get a lot of Octomancers if you want to. That's all I'm going to say. And if your opponents dare to make a token after that, I think they just won't. Next up, wait. There should be a game where everyone is just allowed to have Octomancer as their commander, and I think that will be a great game. But yeah, as their commander, and it doesn't have to be legendary. I know that it can't be the commander, but I think it will be a really fun game. So someone do that. Hazel's Brewmaster, 4 mana Scroll Warlock, is a friend of Hazel, one of the main commanders. It's at 3/4. When it enters or attacks, you exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Really underrated ability, but it's really strong and people are catching up. And create a food token. We love food. Foods you control have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Hazel's Brewmaster. We have seen this before with another creature that loves to brew stuff and herself. This can really get out of hand, and as you can make so many foods, you are left to wonder, what can we do with this? I love this type of ability because there are so many things you could do with this. One of the things, I think this is still a weak one, but is a Yara, which says tap to sacrifice another black creature, draw a card. So you will need a bunch of creatures as well, maybe foods, and this could go infinite with the miser we saw before. Miser. Actually, shouldn't it be a mouse? But well, it's a squirrel. I think there's something there. Don't quote me on that, but that's a 4-card combo anyways. But you should think, what can you do with it? Let me know, actually. Because apparently I'm not doing a good job at explaining it. Next up, the Pollywog Prodigy. 2 mana for a 1/3 frog wizard. And we love 1-powered creatures. Because it goes with the bird that sings. It has evolve, so it does grow. Whenever a creature you control enters, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, which it should, because this is just 1 power, put a +1 counter on this creature. And aside from that, this is just your Esper Sentinel. Because whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell with mana value less than Pollywog Prodigy's power, draw a card. You need to hype this guy up, but I really love it, and I put this in for personal reasons because I run Azuri Claw of Progress and this guy fits so well, and I think the art's also just beautiful. It's a swirly whirly, and that's perfect for Simic. So yeah. Mr. Foxglove is the obligatory, I would say, Robin Hood Fox of this set. 5 mana, 3/5 with green, white and blue as a commander. I think this is cool, but it fits really well with a lot of other commanders in this color combination. Mr. Foxglove, when it attacks, he steals from the rich and gives to the poor, and you are the poor. You draw cards equal to the number of cards in defending player's hand, minus the number of cards in your hand. So you will be equal. This fox stands for equality. If you didn't draw cards this way, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. So sometimes you attack the poor so that you can become richer. So not really Robin Hood here. But playing big creatures, we love that. For example, Storvald Frost Giant Jaw. Who has ever played this guy? No one, but now you could. And whenever it enters the battlefield, you could give Mr. Foxglove 7 power and 7 toughness. Or you could make another creature small, if you want, because Mr. Foxglove works on an attack trigger, and now you can have it have 7 power. So, or it fits really well in Tulane, Teller of Tales, a 5 mana 2/4 that you probably already know because of a really good marketing approach by Wizard of the Coast. Yeah. Vigilance, so it can attack. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Already this helps you storm off really well, and Mr. Foxglove fits, I would even say, like a glove in this deck. Definitely, as you can keep playing all those creatures and get all of your deck out, and this will make the archetype stronger. And this is the first time, if you play Mr. Foxglove as a commander, that you can play Storvald the Frost Giant Jaw. And that was it for this video today. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope your coffee was warm and that now you have already finished it, because otherwise it would be cold. Have a nice day. Bye.